my understanding, I thought I heard you just say that there's only about potential for 62 million under the act. I mean, you put it all in. How does that? How do you?
Well, there is a prioritization, and frankly, we're early in that process, which is why the list is where it's at. And part of it is that we also have some additional research to do on each of the projects related to their readiness and also related to the job creation. So we're underway with that right now. But we would prioritize that, obviously, before it went to Metro. And I might note that for the 50% of funds that don't need to be obligated very quickly, there would be some opportunity for refinement of the list as months ago.
Coming down soon, no, we are not going to repair the Bybee overpass.
Replace the solid bridge, so that,
Why not?
That's coming next.
That's a bus issue.
So Neil, you explain why you can't use some of these monies for the bigger light rail projects coming up. Is it possible to chunk out some of those big projects and have some of this money applied to a discrete project, design drawing, design documents? It looks like you have some money for South Florida Light Rail in the New Start grant part of that, but will they allow you to do that kind of creative?
So sort of two answers to your question. One is if there are New Start dollars allocated in the final bill, big if because it's in the House, not the Senate, then I think we would be in a position to apply competitively for some of those funds. And there's really some, because environmental work has to be done on a real project, the projects that would be eligible in our region would be the streetcar route project, which has an environmental assessment. And as you know, we've been going through a sort of a very difficult process with FTA thus far. Or FTA, for example, could advance some of the funds that are currently projected to come to us for the Green Line completion over the next couple of years. There's $80 million in the pending appropriation bill, another 80 and another 25. And they could advance that to get that sort of paid off. And that would actually help the project's financing costs a lot. So that under that category, we could also apply for study funds or engineering funds, and would intend to do that if that is an avenue available to us. That would be one. Number two is that engineering costs could be eligible. Frankly, for the Milwaukee project, we believe we have those covered right now, so it's not as big of an issue for us as in some other areas. I don't know, Fred, you may have some.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Just making work isn't good, but when I look over this looks pretty positive and productive to what is needed to be done, and it would be an infusion immediately if we could get it moving. And it does put people to work and spreads work around our local area, which is going to be very important to us. I caught your comment, on it's got to go to Metro, it's got to go to state, and certainly these things got to be done. Can we get ahead of the curve on this? Because I know the process too, and sometimes it can get very slowed up going through these things. So what can we do to speed it along?
Well, what we have done is that we forwarded this list to Metro, for example, for the to start the air quality performance analysis well ahead of the deadlines. And again, with that very same view in place, I want to be first in line as opposed to last in line with my projects.
Okay.
So we're working at. I would say though that Metro and the state recognize that this is going to be a huge priority, and they're going to, put everything on to expediting the work as quickly as possible.
Okay, very good. I was say, being on this board as long as some of us have, we understand that there are different pots of money there for different. How do you get your point across to the Senate that some of the things that they're doing is hurtful rather than helpful?
Well, my reaction would be that it isn't hurtful. It may not be as helpful as you want. And so I think, per Board Member Lauterbach's comment, I think all of these things are very desirable, good things for TriMet and will help our system in the long run. But obviously, obviously, it doesn't help as much as one might hope, for the young man earlier comment, the operating issues that we face. And I think that really does go, per the comment earlier, to this definition of federalism. And you've heard it if you've watched the debates on the Senate floor, where opponents of the act have really tried to draw a line on sort of aid to states, aid to education, on that operating front. And I think the fear is that that would be, from the federal perspective, a slippery slope.
And just for my own, on new starts, is there operating money in there?
That's a straight capital.
Straight capital. Okay.
I maybe just two quick last comments here, and we're going to be closing this off. One is that as much as we in this room think transit is very, very important, if the education lobby can't get traction on their operating issues, you probably understand why we're not getting any traction either on that issue. But I do think that the more the members in Congress can understand this, the better. I mean, you've certainly seen the public comments by Ron Wyden about the education issue and how serious that is, and it is, and that in many ways is a mirror image of what we're facing on the operating side as well. Secondly, this list is, as Neil said, at least 200% of what we could potentially expect, and there are still negotiations going on and lots of other things. But as we look at it, an argument could be made that from our narrow TriMet standpoint, we'd love to be able to pay for most of the way down bus replacement. And yet, if you think about it, although we probably will get some buses, we want the projects that produce jobs that are here in Oregon, if we can, at least. I mean, if you think about a roof replacement at one of our bus yards, the track switches, or a whole series of these other things, those are going to be probably only local workers that are going to be able to take advantage of that. I mean, you wouldn't bid on such a small contract from far away. And so that one is a very important one for us, even though you can hear the argument that says, boy, isn't bus replacement critical. So, just to give you a feel for how we're looking at prioritizing within this area.
Okay, very good. All right, speaking of quagmires, legislative update.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to give you a little update. We have one eye on Washington and then a whole body, two bodies in Salem right now. And I would like to just address Mr. Lynn's question about how you have input. We have been responding by email and phone calls on the stimulus package when different amendments come up. There have been some that are more favorable or less favorable to transit. So we do send emails back to Senator Wyden and Senator Murphy's office, as well as the House members. So we have been 3,000 miles away trying to keep up with that stuff as it comes and goes. And that's been exciting. I want to make sure everybody knows Aaron Deese, who's here, who's my assistant, who accompanies me to Salem every day and is working very hard on representing TriMet in Salem. But we're 1 month into the state legislative session, and you heard a little bit already about what they've been preoccupied with in the first month. They hit the ground running with their own state stimulus package, and then having to deal with the budget crunch, both in this biennium. They're going to have to cut maybe $700 million out of this biennium's budget, as well as dealing with the next biennium, the 09-11. They're looking at over $2 billion worth of cuts. So you can see that's really preoccupied them. But our focus is on the governor's Jobs and Transportation Act, which I've talked to you about before, with the Vision Committee that he had set up, completed their work. I've given you some material, but I also have a one-pager. Thank you. This is a one-pager that very briefly talks about the transit components. It's now an actual bill. It's been introduced. There haven't been any hearings yet. The legislative leadership is now really trying to assess the governor's package, the size of it, what's practical, how things have changed since it was developed, the balance that it has between all the different modes. They're collecting additional research, doing some additional polling before they roll anything out. I don't think we're going to have a hearing on the governor's